Morning. If you come a little closer, you'll be able to hear. We were talking yesterday about Gevina. Gevina is a special gzeira. The Rambam explains it, a special gzeira from a brisa, davar shebamidyan, that whether it's kosher or not kosher has nothing to do with the ingredients. Obviously, it's not kosher, but it has nothing to do with the ingredients per se. There's a special gzeira on Gevinas Yisrael, just like there is on Bishul Akum, for instance. So Bishul Akum doesn't make a difference if it's kosher. It's not the point that the ingredients are kosher. Mashgiach and Kosher is kosher. Bishul Akum is usher. Gevinas Akum is usher. By the way, since I spoke about this, a number of WhatsApps all the time, and somebody was looking around yesterday after this little shir in Osherad. And he said he looked at the hard cheeses, and he said many of them, I don't know about all of them, but many of them, I'm talking about hard cheese, like Parmesan cheese, hard cheddar cheese. These cheeses are imported from Europe, and they have a triangle K on it, and it says on it, Cholav Yisrael. So I don't discuss here which hechsher you should use or you should not use, triangle K. But it says that it's Cholav Yisrael, but it's not the point. It's Cholav Yisrael. The point is it has to be Gevinas Yisrael, which it does not say on the package. So you have to be careful, according to what we're learning, as to what you're eating. The question came up a lot in the mass after the Industrial Revolution of food. When food began to go fast, the question came up with all the white cheeses. Obvious case is cottage cheese. Cottage cheese is cheese, the same thing. The little pieces you find in there is curds and the curdles. Those are curds, and the curds are separated from the whey. It's the same process as cheddar cheese or hard cheese, just unaged. That's all it is. It's just unaged. So they're not aged properly. There's no techniques. You can make cottage cheese in your house. That's the word. Cottage cheese, and you make it in your house, and you just take some milk, you wait for it to separate, and does that go under the category of Gevina? So the question is, why shouldn't it go under the category of Gevina? But we see that the Olam decided it doesn't go under the category of Gevina because the OU, the OK, everybody produces non-Jewish cottage cheese and sour cream and yogurts and cream cheese and all of these things. What they do, even the very holy places like Golden Flow and all the Cholav Yisrael places, what they do is they send a mashgiach, very very nice. They send a mashgiach to a non-Jewish company. There aren't that many Jewish dairy companies, so there they watch to make sure that it's kosher. But they're not. Nobody's buying the factory. To make sure. I know because I've done it. I've been that mashgiach, my summer job. Nobody's buying the factory, just making sure that they don't put any gelatin in it, and that the rennet is kosher. So is it, what's the hechsher there? So in a rather historic tshuva, I think, in Tafshin Chav, this question was asked by Rav Shimon Schwab to Rav Moshe Feinstein. That's the tshuva. He's writing Rav Shimon Schwab. So two Gedolei Torah are talking, and he asks Rav Moshe, "Is there any hechsher with the cottage cheese?" And Rav Moshe says, not offhand." He writes over here, "This is certainly not an easy hechsher. Cottage cheese is cheese, and therefore should be the same thing as Gevinas Yisrael." But then he says that perhaps there are three svaras, which I will go through very quickly, which make it different. Svara one, he says, is that white cheese, he calls them Gevinos Levanas. First, the whole tshuva is about cottage cheese, which he spells Kuf Aleph Tes Ayin Daled. Cottage cheese. Cottage cheese, like cottage cheese. But obviously it's cottage cheese, so it's made, the cottage cheese you can make in people's homes. So the first thing he says that it doesn't, in order to make cottage cheese, you don't need the stomach of an animal. You don't need rennet. So if you don't need rennet, it'll just become cottage cheese all by itself, whereas, cheddar cheese will never happen. But cottage cheese will become all by itself. So therefore, since it will become all by itself, then the Chazal were not goyzer on it that they're going to use treif rennet. Like that's, so he says maybe that's the svara. And he says even though they actually do put rennet in it, rennet in cottage cheese. There is rennet in there. He says that's just to speed up the process a little bit, but it's not actually like the way you make cottage cheese. So he says maybe that's why it's mutter. The second reason he says maybe it's mutter is that maybe it's not cheese at all. Maybe it's not called cheese. When Chazal thought cheese, they weren't thinking cottage cheese. They were thinking about yellow cheese. They were talking about white cheese. They were talking about yellow cheese. I used to say that this would include also anything which they used to put in a keva, in a stomach of a goat. You know, when I was, just a little bit of trivia, when I was a yeshiva bacher here many years ago, so and I don't remember ever seeing like yogurt or even cottage cheese with a good hechsher, any of those things. The only thing there was leaven. Did you ever see a leaven? A leaven is a very watered down type of yogurt. And what's this leaven? It was very hard to eat, actually, if you're an American coming in with a leaven. So leaven is a Middle Eastern Arab food, which is named after the region, the Levant. That's what it's made. That's how they make it in the Middle East. Levant. We live in the Levant. This is how they made it in the Middle East, and what they did is they let milk sit around a little bit. I looked it up. They let milk sit around a little bit until it got spoiled, basically. But it was a controlled spoil, so they were able to eat it. Now in Israel, Baruch Hashem, if stuff is made here, is no problem at all because everything is Jewish, right? The tznuva is Jewish, everything is Jewish. If it has a hechsher, it's Jewish. But stuff that comes from America, so Rav Moshe says the second shot is it doesn't really need this rennet. And the third thing is that even if you'll say it does need the rennet, and he says, but it doesn't apply the zevus and gorim doesn't apply. It's not important. In other words, for one thing, you can make it without it, and even if you want to make it with it, and you say you have to make it with it, it's not really an important part of it as it is with yellow cheese. Those are the three things that he says, but I just want to read to you what he says at the very end over here. This is revolutionary, right? Because until here, I couldn't find anybody, to a Tafshin Chav, 1960, I couldn't find anybody that says that it's okay. Cheese is cheese, cottage cheese is cottage cheese. So he writes to Rav Schwab, therefore, after everything I said, Edi royech choiva al kvotaris rabbeinu lahiris li'isr. I don't see that you're obligated to stand up, he told Rav Schwab. I don't think you're obligated to stand up and say it's usr, laha'ed shailin, if they're not asking you. Ubefrat sheish gam safek shlo yitzaisu, and who knows if they're even going to listen. Moshe kasafta. But he says, and it's true, much of you shayging him, but let him be shayging him in cottage cheese. Avol, says Rabbi Yosef's final sentence, Lefarsim sheish makam lahater, to say that it's mutter, vaday eino min hara, you shouldn't say that either. So what he told Rav Schwab was, don't have to say anything. Don't say it's asur, and don't say it's mutter, and don't explain to people why it's okay. Don't give a about why it's okay, like I'm doing right now. Don't do that. Just leave the subject alone because cottage cheese is a very sensitive topic. But what I want to point out to you is that here's an interesting thing. I eat cottage cheese if it's Chol Yisrael, but in America. But it's interesting that ha'olam na'agu lahatir. It's everybody, even the Hasidic hechsherim, they're all matter this. I say even it's not you thing or it's everybody. The Debritzina Rav, the Avodah Lover Rav, all the Rabbanim of Williamsburg were matter it, even though it's not owned by a Jew, and the heter has to be this Igris Moshe, as far as I know.